Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast. I am once again your host, continuing the man series. I got a really good buddy of mine here. He is a fitness coach, a father, Christ follower, I believe.
Yes.
He is a stud of a human being, and I am so excited, one, to get to know you better. So we're going to start with that today.
Absolutely.
But introing Adam Atallah. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Atallah. All Oz. Yeah, Atallah.
Adam, we're going to continue to build that portfolio, that profile of like what you do and all the awesome things that you're working on as we talk to you. So, apologize for the brief intro there, but
no, that's okay. It's
Adam,
great. That was plenty, man.
Kick me off here.
Where'd
you grow up? And like what kind of like sports you get into, but where'd you grow up?
Yeah, man. So I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Early on in my life, moved around the world, actually. So my father was an aerospace engineer and at the time was trilingual, not bilingual, but trilingual. So Arabic, French, and English. And that took him with GE Aviation all over the world from a sales role. Yeah. So we ended up in pockets of places. I lived in Europe for a while, in North Africa, in Asia. I was in Dubai before Dubai was like,
how old were you at this time?
So all of that travel happened before I was 7 or 8.
But
my frequent flyer miles are so impressive, bro. You would have loved it. Like this kid's like 5 years old and he's got this many frequent flyer miles. But yeah, man. So we were world travelers, but Cincinnati was always home base. My mom is from the Cincinnati area, and my grandparents came up here from down south of Memphis, and then my dad met my mom up here in Cincinnati from when he was at UC doing the engineering co-op program. So that's kind of my story of been in Cincinnati.
So when did you land? You're traveling all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
When did you land in Cincy?
So when we were fully done traveling, I was probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
And then kind of got into schooling and, just went through a normal kid route at that point. Sports wise, you'd asked about sports, played a lot of sports. My dad was a semi-professional soccer player.
No kidding?
Yeah, it was pretty cool over in France. But my love was football, basketball, very American, right? Like very American versus that Mediterranean background of mine. So anyway, played football, basketball. I ran track just to stay in shape for football. Probably should have competed in that looking back at it, but I had a goal in mind. So had a chance to play football at Miami University, go Red Hawks, love and honor. And we had a good time up there. I was a preferred walk-on for 2 years and then kind of changed my trajectory of career into what I'm doing now. But it all started with that whole process going through high school and everything.
So your dad was soccer player, semi-professional in France.
In France, yeah. I think if he would have probably stuck with it, but he ended up going for education. The co-op program in France took him to UC, an engineering's program there, and then studied aerospace engineering.
It sounds like he was crushing it at GE Aviation.
He was. It was cool. And it's funny. I actually don't talk about my dad very much. He left our family, and this is fine. It's good to talk about. Yeah. Left my family when we were younger. I think I was maybe 11.
Okay.
And but it's a part of my story. And it's kind of funny. I really have never talk about my dad like that. It's usually my mom or my life, but it's a part of the story. So there we go.
Was he involved in your sports at all?
He was early on. And then, my mom has just been such a rock. She was the person that, got me to all the things. And my grandparents helped out a ton too. They were in town and they, get me to sporting events, get me to practices, get me to the Boy Scouts, get me to church group, whatever it was. So I am very fortunate to have a really cool tribe, right, of people. And I know we talk about the Homegrown having this tribe,
100%.
And there's a feeling to that. And it starts within your own household.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the things that gravitated me towards what you guys are doing is like, oh man, this is awesome. Yeah, I have my own little homestead. I have my little homegrown group here, my family too. And to hear about all these people from around the country, maybe even the world, right? But for you guys, just this amazing following of people, like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds familiar. And it's also like extremely wholesome.
Yeah.
So
I dig that. So you were growing up, you're playing sports. What did fitness look like for you back then in sports? So were you just showing to practice or like, did you own that? Like, what was your mental place like?
That's a great question. So for me, I definitely would say I was more skill focused, right? I think that's just like a natural approach people have is like, okay, hey, develop skill. Okay, the athlete is developing. But what you're missing is the other work that goes into your development, which is the physical and mental part of that comes from strain.
Yeah.
And I think that is something missing today. And we can talk 100%. On that as much as you want.
But don't worry.
Get uncomfortable, right? And like, what does strain look like? Because it's not just like getting a nice sweat. It's not just punching the clock for 2 hours. It's the constant focus around how am I putting myself in position to grow that are super uncomfortable. But because of that, I'm getting where maybe I want to go or a place I didn't know I could get to. And so for me, it was more the skill development. And then as I progressed into high school, I realized if I'm going to level up more, if I'm going to do more, I got to start doing the things that people don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And so being in the weight room was important, running on the track, doing track and field at school, being a part of the varsity team just to stay in shape for football and get faster.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I love track. No, I didn't like track. Not like that. I needed that for the bigger goal. So I did it.
So, and that's why I asked. I was like, okay, it's not normal, I don't believe, for kids to make the decision or to take ownership of their development in a lot of ways. And at some point, your brain, I believe, clicks, and you all of a sudden you realize I can figure out how to get better at this thing, right? And so it sounds like at some point in your life you were playing football, and that was your primary.
That is definitely the primary.
And do you remember what age that was where that kind of click happened?
Man, my love for football. Track? Yeah. I got introduced to football back in like middle school. And up to that point, I had just played soccer and done the other sports, right? I played baseball, I played basketball, but like it was really soccer up until that point. And then I had my first taste of football. I'm like, oh, I love this. I love the team component to this. I like the strategy. And it really turned into something that I would say became obsessed with. And I think there needs to be a level of obsession. There's a difference between that and idolizing. Mm-hmm. And so like, I just encourage people to remember, how can I be obsessed about something and just totally bought in, but not idolize it to the point where it becomes like my full identity? Mm-hmm. That's hard, especially as a teenager. Like that's hard because that really is a culmination of everything into one. And I think what happens is this, like if you choose to specialize in something early, you could miss out on other benefits, but you also need to recognize that, okay, this specific sport, I'm bit, like I am in. And so how do I develop that? And so everything at the end of the day kind of revolved around that. And I knew that was the training I needed to do. That was the focus I need to have, but you can hone other skills. I'll always tell people play multiple sports. You know, I had to make a business decision my senior year because I knew I had a chance to go play in college or have that opportunity. That was going to take some sacrifice. And so it's like, man, I didn't play basketball my senior year. Looking back, would that have been fun? Yes. Was it the right move? I think so. I was a preferred walk-on. I had to prove myself at a Division I university. I went there because the academics are awesome. The women are beautiful, you know, and it's close to home. But I also can play football and live out a dream of mine.
It's awesome because we have a similar sort of journey in sports where in a way, okay. Obviously, there's some major new.
Hit me with it, man.
So
hit me with it.
My dad was a really decorated wrestler.
Okay,
so he just a stud, right? So he like Hall of Famer in New York, state champion, ended up going and wrestling in the Olympics, and like just stud of a wrestler, right? So
the pinnacle, man.
As you can imagine, this is pre-UFC. My dad, 100%. I talk to him all the time. He's like, dude, if UFC was around, he's like, I just can't imagine I wouldn't have done it. Right?
Wow.
So I don't know.
That's cool though.
He blows some smoke sometimes.
Yeah, but also like that's a different breed, bro.
We don't know
that generation's a different breed.
So he growing up, wrestling was not like an option. This is what we do here. So at the age of 4, I started wrestling.
Okay.
And
so you're on the ground rolling around. You're
100%.
Yeah.
Now here's the difference is that it sounds like you took a lot of ownership for your sport, whereas like a lot of mine was like, this is what we're doing. Right. So that's one of the nuances that I see. And it was a lot of pressure, right? It was like, hey, this is my dad's thing. Look what he achieved. Can I do what he did?
Yeah.
Right? There was a lot of that for me. And there was also some interesting nuance because I had 2 brothers. We all wrestled, right? And I just had the body type my dad had. I had the moves that he had. I looked like him. There was like home video. It was just crazy, right?
That's cool.
I was like, I always felt like I was this like, you know, the chosen one that was supposed to come out and like, you know, be, you know, the Gerald Haselmayer like 2.0, right? So I felt a lot of pressure. I definitely did. And I did not do well with the pressure. I did become a very, very excellent wrestler. I wrestled all the way until I was probably a sophomore in high school. And it was very intense training. And it was not something that I learned to own, right? If anything, I learned how to get better at things because it was so forced on me, It was like, hey, we're gonna do wrestling practice, but then it's like, Dad's gonna take me to Winton Woods to wrestle the high school, even though I'm not in high school yet, to make sure that I lose. Right? There was like this kind of factor,
the experience.
Oh my gosh, bro! So I became very good, and I was very good, and I'm very thankful to have that skill today. But the reality is that I very abruptly burned out. And I just remember it being a huge rift in our relationship for a while. And it was like, I can't do it. I started to really hate wrestling, and I switched to soccer. So soccer became my sport.
Okay.
And early on, so funny, I was talking, to Danny, depending on when these episodes go live, about my kind of soccer journey, because him and I met when I started playing soccer. And it just, I was in this weird place in life where sports had always been something that it was like a command. It was like, you have to do this and you're going to be good. And here's how you're going to be good. And all of a sudden now I was thrust into something where none of my parents really cared. It was just kind of like my thing. And so I showed up, and if I didn't have an authoritarian kind of coach, I didn't, and this is kind of where I'm going with this. I didn't really respond super well. And so fortunately I did have a pretty authoritarian coach early on. And so thinking back to your sports, I obviously had my dad as a coach for a significant period of time. And then I had some wrestling coaches, and then I had some soccer coaches, and they all played a pretty pivotal role in my life. Did you have any coach impact in your life?
Yeah, I did. So two things drove me. One was probably from a negative standpoint, but it was to prove my dad wrong, or to show him what he's missing out on by leaving, starting a new family. There was resentment there was bitterness and anger, which I'm glad the Lord worked on my heart with that and released me of those things. And it wasn't overnight, it was 15 years later.
Totally. Yeah.
But I'm thankful for some of that I was able to bottle that up, even though it was driven from bad energy and desire. There was fruit that came from that, and I'm grateful for God's provision with that. I think coaches in my life, I was always in such team sport things that it was just kind of you clung to certain coaches, that pregame speech to how they coached you when you came off the field to challenge you one-on-one in the coach's office and having those open conversations. But, my mom did a great job of putting a lot of mentors in my life.
Wow.
From, Boy Scouts, Lonnie Stone, the Boy Scout master, right? So he was the head of the troop. Jeff Beard, my closest friend, Tyler, his dad, who was always a coach, in all the sports, and Tyler literally and I overlapped on almost all sports. And so Jeff came like a second dad. My grandpa is my hero. He passed back in February and, lived 91, almost 92 years, died on a leap year on literally February 29th.
No way.
So we'll only quote unquote celebrate every 4 years or whatever.
Salute to grandpa. Dude.
Yeah.
Pretty legit.
So, and I'm glad he didn't suffer. And my grandma did a hell of a job taking care of him. I say this all the time, and it sounds weird at first, but I thank her for getting the extra mileage out of my grandpa.
Yep.
Because I think he would have passed a lot sooner if it wasn't for my grandma saying, "Bill, we got to get up. Got to walk. Hey, got to take the trash over to the church. Hey, we got to, drop off the pop tabs on the top of the, of the cans. We got to take them over."
Serious.
I'm they still give you money for those? But, and then just everything in between. He still had a laundry list at 91 years old of, hey, when are you going to, fix that doorknob? Or, hey, when are we going to paint this? And even though it may have never gotten done. And I tell her, make sure you show yourself grace, because you choosing to do those things really did help grandpa stay long. But my grandpa's my hero, man. And so I remember countless times. It's even funny. The other day I was reminiscing. I was driving over to my mom's, who lives right around the corner from my grandparents. And I remember the turn. I'm at the stop sign, and I'm getting ready to make my turn towards my old house I grew up in. And I just envisioned my grandpa turn in the car and how he turned the wheel. I just remember it all. It was very weird, but I had that moment. I'm like, gosh. And so the reason I'm saying all this is because it may not have been, and it may not be this for a lot of people, it wasn't always the overall thing of being impacted by others, but there's so many little moments so many moments. And I hope you had that with your dad, where there were also awesome moments.
Oh yeah.
But man, if someone asked me, well, what would you prefer? Would you prefer the Joe experience with, his dad, or would you prefer the Adam experience with his dad? And like, I don't know. Like, I look at it sometimes, I think, man, I wish I had a dad that like pushed and drove me, or was like there versus absent. But then I also look at it and say, man, look what I was able to like develop and hone, and the people that still helped me along the way. So, if you're out there thinking about that, and, you're looking at it, I think that there's beauty in both of those things. 100%. So, but yeah, man. And I mean, I'd never had that pressure of someone who wrote, they reached the pinnacle of success. They wrote a chapter in like the book of success when it comes to something, i.e. wrestling and whatnot. And, I know wrestling teaches you a whole lot of stuff, though. I do know that. It teaches a lot of grit and a lot of resolve.
Humility, 100% humility. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you learn how to lose in wrestling, you're ready to lose in anything.
Really?
Because, oh my gosh, you think about it. You go out into a mat, it's a circle, everyone's watching. It's you versus other person. And it's not like you got outskilled.
Yeah.
You just get manhandled. I mean, humbled 100%. Yeah. So
have you transitioned that into anything like, martial arts? I know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is like a big one, right? Everything like that. Have you dabbled that? Do you even want to anything coming back around now at our age now?
I've got a friend that he does some like Brazilian jiu-jitsu instruction on like a semi-weekly basis. And he's been like, Joe, you gotta come out.
Right.
If I'm honest, we touched on this, and I'm a kind of person, I think you and I met about this before, like when we were talking about doing a show together and even just like collaborating or like doing fitness together.
Yeah, what does this look like, man? There's so many opportunities.
And I have this, I like to say it, addictive personality, both for good and bad. Yeah. But like lately I've been really trying to push it in a good direction.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, man.
And I like how you said it. It was much better. It was have an obsession rather than an idolization of something that you're working on. And the obsession is something where it's like you dive in and you look at it from all angles. You're like, I'm opening the YouTube videos on how to get better at archery, or I'm watching YouTube videos on, okay, it's not just YouTube, but like anything.
Yeah, that's a great reference point, and that's also applicable. Yeah, like let's be honest, that's also applicable too.
Yeah,
a lot of people reference something like YouTube because the content is there and it's readily available to find, and you can get lost real quickly. Page 3 or 4, you're like, oh, look at this hidden gem,
dude.
Why doesn't anybody know about this? This only has 2,000 views. This thing should have 2 million views. It's perfect.
Once you're like relaxing, like dopamine fun time, that's almost like you could call it wasted time, becomes semi, I'm not even going to say this. I don't want to say it, but like it could be productive in a way where you learn or are inspired by something to go do that thing.
Right. It's the action afterwards, Joe. That's the difference. It's the action afterwards. Yeah. If I keep going and I just keep hitting my quick hit of dopamine and then I just drop back up, drop. No, it doesn't help. But man, if I can take that quote unquote obsession or just that thing I'm dialed in on, find something, use that, apply it. Now I have action item. And I think that that's a big missing step. I see it with clients. I see it with clients all the time where, hey, I love this, but after a month, I'm done with it. Mm-hmm. Well, what's the difference? Why is this working for you now? Well, because there's action items, and that comes from having a system. And I think when you have a system or you're aware that you need a system, again, I have an addictive personality. Okay, great. So what system are you using to say, man, I want to hone those things in on things that better myself, my family, my business, this production or harvesting a moose or a deer or whatever. But truly like that, if me watching those 50 videos and taking those 150 shots a week led to me making a really good shot on a moose and harvesting that,
100%.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hey, man, listen, sometimes I go to these happy hours and, I'm entertaining clients and there's a couple bottles of wine and I just don't think I can give up alcohol like that. Okay. Can you minimize it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's start there. Minimize it. Adam, I don't want to give it up because I closed a $500,000 deal last week doing that. Who am I to say, yeah, you need to stop doing that? That doesn't work. What works is a system. Don't do some fad. Don't do some quick hit. That doesn't work. Find the system, and everyone's system is different. Mm-hmm. Mine is different than yours, right? Yours is different than Liz's. Everyone else is like, but those systems matter. And if you can live within that system and then you refine, like, dude, push the boundaries, expand it, let it get, that system can expand, right? It's a living organism. right? And I think that when we can recognize that, one, I need the system, two, I need to figure out what that is for me. And so that's been my goal, is just like, how do I navigate that for myself, my family, my clients, the business, et cetera.
You bring up an excellent point. I'm gonna drop a pin there because I'm just to finish the thought there. That's why I haven't done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not going to like it if I do it once a month. I'm not going to like it even if I'm doing it once a week.
You know yourself, bro.
It's going to become the thing. And so,
are you ready for that thing right now? Because if not, then that shouldn't be in the system.
It's not in the system. So, but do I think it's a respectable, awesome thing that, hey, you know what? I like that. I think I could be really into it.
I think you could be good, bro.
I think I could be really into it. So
you might be able to hone that back in a little bit. That'd be cool.
We may introduce that at some point. Right now, running, bow hunting.
Yes.
Father.
Logging
husband.
Miles, bro. Logging miles.
That's what we're doing.
Logging shots and logging moments with your family.
So back to what you were just saying, is because it's one, just about drop the mic there, but when you're creating a system, I feel like there's a really powerful element there that's needed, and it's goal setting.
Oh my gosh.
And I just feel like that is something that I see so regularly in life, where it's if you can establish some guiding principles or a North Star, or use a tacky or cliche, whatever word you want, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can start to prioritize the things that are happening in your life to kind of create that system, that rhythm, that routine, that day of the life. How do you go about goal setting for yourself and your family?
Okay. So I think that there's a difference in goal setting when it's personal and when it's like communal, right? Like I do. And so, when I talk to my wife about it, it's like, okay, there's certain things that we both have that overlap, that we want. There's things that we want for our family, but we also have to have a level of expectation and being real. And so what I like to do is say, okay, is this a 3 to 6 month? Is this a 6 to a year? Is this a year to 3 years or further out? Right now, building a business and raising a family, we're not spending much time 3+ years. Mm-hmm. It's within like the 3-year range.
Yeah.
And so I think that's situational. I think that's just like where we are, the chapter we're in. And I'm thankful for that, because I can tend to be the really, really big picture thinker down the, like way, way down there. My wife's like, dude, dial it back in. Then she's trying to plan 2-3 months out. I'm like, I'm trying to get through today. Yeah. Like my brain skips this like gap of like, oh, so you have to train yourself to do the things that like you don't want to do. Just like, hey, I don't want to go train today, but I need to, because that's what is called from me right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, the planning part, it's got to be a destination, right? Like, where are we trying to get to? What does this look like? There needs to be a timeline involved. I think people look at timelines and think, ooh, that's intimidating. I don't. I look at it as like game on. And also, if we don't get there in that time, like, let's assess. So we do after action reviews all the time. Like, I'm a big fan of after action. It's okay. What went well? What do we need to work on, or what needs to get better? Yep. And what do we need to stop? Right. Or in this case, sometimes start, like a start stop is kind of that combo, but do it with everything. Like, after this podcast, we should do one, right? Like, that's just a natural thing to do, because if you have a mindset of wanting to get better, all these prolific things people talk about, all this stuff that's all over social media that makes you just take a breath. What's the after action review? Man, what did I like about that?
Yeah.
You know what did I was too wordy, or spent too much time on this, or it wasn't clear, and then like, man, what did I said too much, or I said, yeah, or whatever that is. Like, everyone has them. Mm-hmm. And so how can I get better at that? Be more aware of it. And the more times you do those reviews, the more you're speaking that common language, which kind of gets to my next point. Whatever your goal setting is, you need to have a common language around it that is so spoken all the time, because your wife needs to speak it to you. You need to speak it to her. And then you also need to be delivering on what's her common language she needs to hear. And she needs to know what yours is. And that's just from a relationship standpoint. Also, what does that do to reinforce to kids? So like, if I want our kids to be eating better, it's like, okay, hey, you're just eating junk food, versus, hey, we want to eat better protein.
So killer.
We want to eat better carbs. Well, what is a carb? Okay, well, let me tell you what that is here. I'm not getting scientific with it. I'm just saying, hey, so if this chicken is on the plate and this bread is on the plate for you, which ones are these? And like, you're having a fun game with it. Okay. Common language is, hey, honey, we need more protein intake. We were short this week or this day. Okay, well, we're out of cottage cheese. That's a big one for us. Okay, well, let's go get more cottage cheese or Greek yogurt or whatever those vices are for you. And so
vices, Greek yogurt. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, it is in our household.
Good. Hey,
the Greek yogurt for us.
Cottage cheese vice.
Oh my gosh, cottage cheese.
Man.
And yeah, those two are solid staples in ours. We eat a range of food. I know we just went from like what's goal setting to like food.
But this is huge.
But it is important because that is part of our goal setting. Like I think if we want clarity, the food matters too. Like and we can jump into that at some point. But just learning better habits in that. So back to the goal setting. If I want to have good common language, we have to set that. And so I always talk about like, okay, what are like, things that we want to talk about? What are great reminders for each other too, so that we're not hounding each other, but we are able to have that conversation with like a level of transparency, love, and boldness. And then, man, I think the communication channel has to be there, and you got to ask questions. So, hey, how's this going? Like, let them in. It's very easy to like both be parallels going at the same rate. You're both exhausted at the end of the day from taking care of a family, running a business, or working at a job. I mean, not just running a business, working at a job. And how do you take time to ask a couple questions that just one shows yourself or your spouse? Cause I do that internally too, man. Okay. Hey, what was like 2 or 3 things that were awesome today? What were 2 or 3 things I missed on? What does that look like? And sometimes I journal it. I need to be better about that. If I was to say like one thing right now that would help with goal setting would be maybe just like a little bit more note taking and journaling regularly amidst, like, I don't know if you do a devotional in the morning or if you journal at all. I tend to do that a little bit more regularly. I wouldn't say it's like I'm every day at this time. Good. Right. It's not a Jocko discipline level, but there's a level of discipline that I do have around that. Man, I like just sharing sometimes quiet time with my wife, both in our Bibles and doing a little, she hates when I look at her though. Like I'll like look at her and she's like writing in her Bible. She's like, this is private. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh, sorry. I caught you in the middle of something.
Cubicles necessary. Right?
Yeah. And then here's the thing, also write down that stuff. Like don't just verbalize it, but also write it down somewhere where you can see it. It's the power of that visual all the time. My wife does hers on little Post-it notes in the bathroom on her, like one of her like little vanity mirrors. I have mine on my whiteboard down in like my little home office, like work man cave thing. And so when it doesn't get drawn on by my children, but those are like the 2 spots I think we have for each other.
You've helped articulate things for me that it's so powerful. And I'm going to reiterate some of it because, so I have a common practice in our house, and it's, we love a family meeting. Okay. So one, we love a family meeting.
Okay.
And what I'm going to say is that without fully knowing what I now know after talking with you for 27 minutes, is that when you're creating goals, having common language can really reinforce alignment on what that kind of objective is and the tactics that are being deployed. Right. And so I think that unintentionally, but it's been working, having these family meetings where I kind of repeat, here's what we're going to do. Here's why, here's what's expected of each of us. And like, it's almost like a ceremony as well. Of like, we're moving from most recent meeting. We're talking about doing a sugar cleanse in our house.
Okay.
Talking about it.
Yeah. So that's tough.
We're earning
Sugars
alignment
and everything,
currently.
man. I mean, you're going to have to be extremely disciplined.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, no, doable.
Wife, Liz, on board immediately. She was like, let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
Kids, super stressed. Right. Because, scones and putting sugar in my tea.
So good.
I know. And so we're going to get there, but we're talking about why. We're having meetings where we're discussing it as a family, not just us. And it's not just like like you said before, it's not just you're eating junk, stop, right? It's creating a language together so that we can understand things. And if I think back and I really boil it down, what's the purpose, the objective behind this sugar cleanse? Yeah. Is it because I just want my kids to stop eating sugar? Well, maybe a little.
Yeah. I'm sure that adds into it.
But that's not the total reason, right? There's also some understanding, some awareness, some earned discipline. There's some education around nutrients and sugar and what's the nutrient density of the food that I'm consuming that's going to be earned in the meantime. We're also going to teach our kids how to address an issue when there is one, or if they see that there is one. Yep. There's so many value. There's so many learnings that we believe can come from something like this if there's ownership from each person. If we just force the issue, What's the value?
You press it on them without any.
The value is maybe some better regulated blood sugar for like 10 days until
your glycemic index isn't going to be as high. Okay, cool. Like,
but that's all I'm going to earn.
No one's going to. Yeah.
And you know how painful this is going to be? Yeah. It ain't going to be worth it, right? I want there to be so much more of a return than just their blood sugar is a little bit more regulated for however long I can force them to do this.
So what comes to mind when you say that is I've used a phrase for a long time in coaching, especially when I was with like athletes and teams, and this obviously being your little team. So standards set are standards that can be kept. So if I set the standard of what we want to do, then we're able to all keep it because we're aware of what it is, why we're doing it, and we can all have buy-in. And if I have buy-in, then I have alignment.
So good.
So if I have that alignment, then I can keep what we have set as a standard. So standards set or standards kept. That's kind of something that I've come to realize really works. And it's something someone else can process very easily. It's not complex, right? It's not like in your face and wait, like, how do I break this down? Where's my notebook?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Yeah. If I set something in motion, then, and everyone knows about it, my family meetings and that common language is spoke, then we now understand and we can keep that standard or at least work towards it. So yeah, I think that's a good way.
So played football at Miami, graduated, and entering into the next stage of life. Fast forward me through that to get to where we are today.
Yeah. I give you the clip.
Yeah.
So, I realized that I still wanted to be around sports. I wanted to still be around sports. I like what sports is about. And the weight room is a place that is always objective. It's not subjective. It's objective. That is 225. You're either able to move it or you're not, right? If I can move it, great. How much more can I do? If I'm not able to move it, well, what do I need to do in the process to have a shot at it? And so it was always the great equalizer and it never lied to you. And I liked that. And so I kind of got into like the sports performance route on the coaching side, and just kind of went from there, and that flourished into this career. Got on at a sports performance training facility in Cincinnati called Ignition. The Arrington family brought me on, wonderful family, gave me so many opportunities at a young age. I was doing things most people my age were not, traveling to different places, training different athletes. It was an incredible experience. Through that, developed a nutraceutical line with the company, and nutraceuticals is like your protein powders and your vitamins and all that. That's like the category. So we developed basically a line of supplements because we had this unbelievable brand. We had a ton of athletes in this portfolio, and we the only product we had to sell was training. And so we were ahead of the curve with online training at the time. Like we invested all this time in this app, and it was called the Challenger Band. We came up with like the branding for it, and like you could do like these band workouts, and the idea was on the go. If you want the stuff, the real stuff, you do it in person. If you want the stuff on the go, hey, all you need to do is throw these 2 bands in your bag and you got this whole library and workout program. And it was very forward thinking. It was just too early, bro. People were not taking that on. Had that been developed a year before like COVID, oh my God, it would have been, but it was 10 years before COVID.
Totally.
And so we laugh about it. Like, you want to know something, dude, this is totally off.
Tell me.
Chris and I swear this is a true story. Chris Arrington and I, the owner of Ignition, CEO of Prasco Pharmaceuticals, like we went and had a meeting with UDF, United Dairy Farmers. For those of you guys that don't know, UDF, it's a local brand in here from the Lindner family, wonderful family. It's done so much, very successful. And so if you look at a UDF, it's a gas station with a convenience store with a full service ice cream, now all the way through food. They got everything. Probably not necessarily like top quality, but available, fast, and like all in one space. So we go and we have a meeting and we say, hey, we have an idea. Why not drive people after all their ball games when they're coming to UDF to get a scoop of ice cream or a milkshake? Why not add in protein? We have all these hometown heroes on our roster from the Bengals. We could use that as co-branding without it being like you're paying for the licensing. We had this whole thing mapped out. We're like, all you need to do is have a tub of Pro XO, the name of the protein, used by the pros, Pro XO, and like put a scoop in your milkshake. And now you can have a 30+ gram milkshake with 30 grams of protein in a milkshake. Like, oh, okay. Now the kids, instead of just having a double chocolate shake, can at least get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah.
Is it the like best thing ever?
No. But hey, I'm tracking.
But at that, so we pitched this, and like, I'm like, dude, we're about to hit a home run. Yeah. No one's thought about this. They go, yeah, no, that's not what we do. And I'm like, oh man. And Chris was like, dude, it's okay. Like, these things happen, right? Chris is like, I've been there a million times on these deals. He's in pharmaceuticals and everything else. 5-6 years later, every UDF protein option, collagen option, like amino booster or whatever. And Chris and I still to this day will like text each other every once in a while when we're at like a UDF and take a picture and be like, hey, remember our idea?
Get a quick protein shake in.
Yeah, remember our idea. Gosh. So, but it's just funny because you can think about those things and, you can be ahead of it and ahead of the curve or whatnot. But so anyway, let's circle that back in to reel this in. So that was the end of that part of the journey in sports performance in the private sector. Ended up getting on at my alma mater, Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, CHCA, Cincinnati here, and became the sports performance director there. And so I worked with all the athletes, 9 through 12. We had a program for 7 and 8. They could come up during the summer and some other things, but most of what we did was for the high school, male and female. And it was awesome. Did that for about 7.5, almost 8 years. Ended up at a really prominent all boys Catholic school in Northern Kentucky called Covington Catholic. Had some wild success in the years past, and they had built an 11,000 square foot facility, indoor turf, weight room. I mean, it was, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. They needed a guy to run it. I'm like, hey, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
And so they hit me up and they said, hey, we'd love to bring you in and check this out, and ended up being there for a couple of years. And then, man, the Lord had just been working on my heart in 2024, beginning of 2024. And I just felt like it's time for you to fully trust me. Mm-hmm. And so I took a leap of faith and said, I'm going to bet on myself. And, I mean, Joe, you're an entrepreneur. You get it. Like I realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like there's no doubt in my mind that the Lord has me do this. And I just encourage anybody. I'm not saying like drop what you're doing, take a leap of faith. And like, I just knew I have you, right? These are the words. I have you. Like, I will not leave you. I will not forsake you. I need you to trust me. Mm-hmm. And so I went to my wife with this. My wife's like, let's go. Like, I'm so thankful for just a solid partner in Spells, man. Just super supportive. We're figuring it out. And when I tell you, bro, there's times where we're like just trying to make it 2 weeks. Like, homie, we're just trying to make it 2 weeks. But it's the happiest I've been.
Oh yeah.
It's the happiest I've been. It's the most clarity I've had. And the momentum that we're building right now is incredible. So that's like the current spot I'm in. I'm now fully out on my own. I'm a health and wellness coach. I focus on total health for men. And man, I'm just trying to help dudes really show up at their best so they can be there for the things that matter most. Whatever those things are for you right now. It might be a family, it might be a career, I don't know. But I know this. My system and my coaching is helping guys be at their best for whatever it is that matters to them.
That's awesome.
And so it's been pretty cool, man. It's profound. And then like, I get to be here. I'm not guarding a weight room. I'm not guarding a desk right now. I'm recording a podcast with you on a Monday.
Dude, it's awesome.
And it's amazing. I'm meeting your beautiful family. Like I'm going to go, get mine later. There's just a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't say yes to this. And so man, the solopreneur thing, it's fun. It's scary as hell sometimes, but man, I have faith. And as one of my clients told me, Adam, be expectant. Don't look at it any other way. Just be expectant because God has you right where he wants you. Excuse me. There's no doubt about it. You are right where you're supposed to be, helping people, doing what you're supposed to do, and you're making a living off of it. Continue to be expectant. And man, those words have never been truer. So shout out Stephen Murray, one of my guys, for that. I really appreciate what he said. And it's cool to be sharpened by your clients. You're not just helping them. And it's nice because as a coach, I'm not just there to help someone lose 10 pounds. I'm not just there to help them, work out. Like I actually use this tagline, like stop working out. What? Stop working out, start training. Mm-hmm. If we have that mindset around, we are training for something. I don't care if it's to just do push-ups with one of your girls on your back. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's like, I just need more energy by the end of the day. Great. Then you are training for that. And your nutrition habits are going to be better for that. Your training system is going to be better for that. Your habit in what you do mentally, it's going to train you better for that. And again, that's why we talk about being at their best. We just want men being at their best, right? We're going to wage war on this whole like tired and dad bod and all this other stuff. I'm tired of that mediocrity.
Oh my gosh, bro.
I'm sick of it. I'm not asking you to be like ripped out of your mind. No one like that's not it. It's, am I sound, functional? Again, I have a lot of like little terms. Are you an asset or are you a liability? Mm-hmm. In a situation, are you an asset? Can you pick your family up and get them out of the house safely, fast? Can you act quick? Can you make decisions when you need to? Can you help someone in need on a drop of a dime? Can you do those things? Like one of the things I realized was an area of need for me is my aerobic capacity. You, my friend, do a great job of that. You have good discipline. I do not do that well. I can pull heavy weight. I'm not as good of a runner. So what do? I buy a pair of shoes off of eBay and I show you these fancy yellow Saucony. I'm like, dude, I'm so out of my comfort zone.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Anyway,
I need to lift more like you and you need to run more like me. And that's the fun part of this whole journey is
the balance.
That fitness is exactly what we need to be doing.
Yeah,
and
man.
Motivation.
Okay.
So many guys, and we're talking specifically to guys and men, boys, right now, and
both are very important.
100%.
Make no mistake, both age, like these groups are very important. Keep going. But yeah,
motivation is something that I hear this a lot.
Okay.
And I hear the question asked, how do you I got a message today from a buddy that's like, man, I wish I could wake up early. And I was like, I don't know, wake up. It's hard for me. Okay. To hear that.
Yes.
And not, how do you find motivation? How do you find, I'm trying to lead you into a story you told me when we met recently where you're able to internalize a situation as motivation to train for that thing because you said, hey, can you take your family and get them out of the house in time? Okay, that can be motivating, but some people might not resonate with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's almost like you have to be able to internalize thoughts in your own brain that motivate you or to keep you disciplined or to keep you going. And sometimes that's, I want to feel confident when I look in the mirror. I want to look at myself and feel confident. I want to feel confident. I walk into a room, I shake someone's hand. I want them to look at me and be like, man, that dude takes care of himself.
Yeah. Like he's actually putting time into that. Yeah. So there's a couple things from a psyche standpoint. If all you are doing is trying to hit a short-term goal by itself, what happens when you get there? Did you make it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you made it there. But did you make it? And what does that mean, Adam? Okay. Did you overall make it to the next level necessary for you to realize the amount of potential that you still have? And so I find myself trying to help guys realize that you're thinking in one area for a period of time. But what you could be doing is thinking about, no, dude, I'm trying to be more dialed in at 40 than I was at 30.
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that? Well, I've found 3 areas that most guys are thinking or like resonating with. And it's, I want to look better, the aesthetic part. It's, I want to feel better, the longevity part, like the longevity. My metabolic age is 5 years older than my real age, right? My body's aging faster than my actual age.
Yeah.
How do I change that? Well, there's some ways we can do that. And then the last thing, so it's look better, it's feel better, and it's train better. It's performing well. So it's the idea of, can I do things really well? And to what degree do I need to be able to do them? And so, yes, you're right. The resonation may not be with, hey, we're in a situation, I need to get my family out, or I need to protect them, or whatever. But it may be, I want to go to the pool with my family and take my shirt off and not be completely embarrassed.
Totally.
And when people are like, oh, that's so vain, I don't think that. I think that men need that level of confidence, that we were wired for that, and that it's in us. We just haven't tapped into it. We let that go.
There's mental health there. It's not just being able to accomplish something and feel good about what you've accomplished.
The journey to that point is a big part of it.
Yes.
It's a big part of it. So, and here's what happens. A lot of times guys come in with like, I just want to look better. Like, I want to lose some weight. Okay. And I say, okay, first thing, I'm not going to focus on the scale by itself. The scale is an indicator. I'm not interested in body weight. I'm interested in body composition. Because if I'm 215 pounds and I drop down to 200, but I'm stronger than I was at 215, guess what happened? I lost bad fat. I gained good muscle. So there's actually a chance that your body comp shifted even more. So like knowing that I lost body fat. Well, how do I know that? Well, there's a lot of ways you can do it easily. You don't have to go and like get in an underwater tank unless you're trying to get to the nth degree. You can do it on some of these scales you can buy off Amazon right
your
now.
Height,
right?
your weight.
Height, weight. There's an algorithm. And if it's within 1%, does it really matter? Okay, like it says I'm 19. Oh man, I'm 20. You were 32 before. You are healthy. You have more skeletal muscle than you ever have, right? Do you even know what that is? That's the muscle that actually makes you process and function, right? And then you look at like, okay, how much is that versus like fat? And then what's the okay fat? You can break it down a million ways. But I think what people need to realize is that the components that go into the work is what ends up driving men more in accomplishment. And then the icing on the cake is that, man, I feel good about taking my shirt off now, right? I have a client, he's lost 30 pounds. I'm like, dude, our goal was to just lose like 15 or 20. He hasn't done the weight he's been doing in the weight room since he was in high school. His confidence level's through the roof. He's got family members that haven't seen him in 6 months. They're like, I'm sorry, what did you do with so-and-so? You know, who is this person? But now he tells me, I got to be honest with you, bro. Like, I thought this would just be like a long shot. I only told my wife this. I'm like, well, listen, you're supposed to tell your wife first. But like, can I be number two? Like, tell me these things so I know, because I can help that from an extrinsic when you're already intrinsically there. Man, that combo, and don't let me forget that, pin that, because I want to get back to that extrinsic, intrinsic side. But he's like, I want to get to 175. He's like, I don't know that I ever thought I would get to that. And he said, and I want to do it by Christmas. And I said, you're my man, because you have a specific goal in a certain amount of time with action items, and you have someone to help you get there. I'm like, you are going to get there, bro. He's 4 pounds away. He's 4 pounds away. And we got, what, 3 weeks left till Christmas? My man's going to be 174.9. Okay. Not 175, 174.9. Because I just know how he is. He's just dialed in. He doesn't need a lot of like, he put all of the things that get in the way out of the way. I don't care if I want to eat other stuff. These are things that I know work for me, that make my stomach feel good, and that help me lose weight while still hitting my protein goal. Check. His breakfast every day. Shout out Andrew. I'll put his name out there. His breakfast every day, 2 scoops of Synth-6 protein and black coffee every day.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I tell him, I'm like, I would prefer a little bit more nutrient dense food, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So every once in a while, 2 eggs and like bacon.
Turn up.
I send him a message. Yeah, I go, bro, who is this today? Like bacon and eggs. He'll send me some meme back. But like, it's a positive relationship with food and your system, and it works for him. And dude, listen, at the end of the day, guys are guys, and I'm working with high performers. See, there's a key here. I'm working with the high performer. I'm not working with the guy I'm trying to convince to roll out of bed at 5. No offense to your friend. I'm not there in a different phase, and that's okay.
Totally.
I'm working with the guy that's like, I'm up, I'm ready. I don't know what to do.
Totally.
I need help. I need a system. I need someone to hold me accountable, and I just need to be cut loose. And it's like, bet. Those are the guys that I want. I found this little niche because they're willing to invest in it. They're not fed up with like, all these things I'm going to have to start doing. They're there. And so now it's like, they're seeing the results. They're getting drawn in, and now we got something. So anyway, reeling that back in to say, like, if you're going to have motivation, I'm not the guy to bring you to the well. I'm the guy to show you how much we can draw out of it once you're there. And so to those that are trying to find motivation, get back to the basics of what are the things that drive you. It's part of my dreams evaluation. What are the things that drive your decision-making every day? Some of it might be money. Some of it might be the family. Some of it might be the faith. It might be whatever that is. But like, and then once you're there, like actually try to identify, instead of the category, identify what it is. Is money actually like the vacations? Is family actually, is it the quality time? Is it coaching one of your kids or multiple kids, whatever? Is it your faith of like, I just feel so much more dialed in when I'm actually like relying on Christ for the things that I need. So yeah, I would say there. And then there are too many men in this world, Joey, that are alone. And what I mean by that is they got tons of people around them, but they got 0 in their corner. They got 0 that are their 3 a.m. guys.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think we're in a society that says like, put your head down and just try to go like make a living and do all this stuff versus living, like actual living, doing life together. Like I don't know. Do you know the 3 a.m.? You know your 3 a.m. guys? Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay. So 3 a.m. guys are the guys that I can call at 3 a.m. and pick up and we'll be there.
Yep. Okay.
They're, you know, Kurt Kersey, my buddy Kurt, your buddy Kurt knows, he uses this term. Who's your six? Who are the six guys that are going to carry your coffin? Do you got them? Do you know them right now? Could you rattle them off? And so, as morbid as that might sound, take a step back and think about who are the homies, who are the ones that are the ride or dies, the I'm in trouble at 3 a.m., the one who's carrying your casket, and say, is that someone that I can go to and say, I'm going to do this? Not, hey, Joe, can you help me get up at 5? No, I'm going to start getting up at 5. I'm going to do it. And I need your help to, one, hold me accountable, and also the power of an invite, Joe. Do you want to do that with me? How many guys just need an invite sometimes?
A lot.
And you know what? The invite acceptance may not be the first time, but if you don't keep inviting them, then you're doing a disservice. And I think as a man, we have a duty to invite people into the things that you're doing, if you're doing them well, and say, that person needs help. They're not a bad person. They just don't have things in line, but maybe all they need is an invite. And it may suck the first couple times, and tell them that. Tell them that. Set the expectation, right? Standard set is a standard kept. So look, this is going to suck, but it's going to get easier. You're going to be sore first, but then it's going to get easier. You're going to crave sugar, but then it's going to get easier. You're going to want to eat processed foods, but then it gets easier. Our bodies are designed for this. We were made for this, man. God designed us for this. Our bodies were designed to process proteins, carbs, 100%. And fats. You don't need to cut any of them out. You need to do it in the right moderation. You don't have to cut them out. 100%. Just have a positive relationship with all of these things. And if you put that all into one big thing, it's, hey, have a positive relationship with strain and know that the resolve you're building is going to help. So when you talk about extrinsic and intrinsic, find your intrinsic things that help you, and then find the people extrinsically or the things extrinsically that are going to make that mesh well and give you an unbelievable fire that you can go after. Does that answer your question?
It does, dude. That's so good. I was just thinking while you...
Is there any more coffee in there,
Yeah, bro, get in here.
Dude, come on.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys don't know, my man's got the good
stuff.
We
got all kinds of coffee in here.
Good stuff.
I was thinking about the state of men currently. Okay. I don't want to get too high in the sky here.
But okay.
I feel like there's there's two big voices in the world right now. There's the voice of, man, I don't want to get political, but there's a voice of this is who I believe men should be, and they need to really. It screams humility. It screams drop your toxic masculinity. It screams, and then there's the other side that's almost just as bad, but on the other side, where it's be ripped, be a lone wolf, figure it out, get up early. You don't need anyone to help you. Do it yourself. And again, I'm not anti David Goggins, but you have a David Goggins side.
It's an extreme.
And then you've got I don't know who would be this other side, but you've got another extreme that's the opposite of David Goggins, right? Maybe it's body positivity. Maybe it's, I don't know. But you've got these two big loud voices, and we know that we kind of want to be somewhere in between, right? We need men to be disciplined and hardworking, but we also need men to be caring for themselves and having community and being able to find your six, right? And I think that there's something there where it's really easy to be attracted to an extreme, and then you find yourself in that extreme, and it's hard to kind of break out of it sometimes. And what I would encourage a lot of men is that it's gosh, you've got to, you said it right away. My system is different than your system, which is different than.
Don't go to emulate someone else's.
100%.
You might be able to use it and say, man, I really like what they do. That's right, man. Listen, you don't try to create your own wheel. There's plenty of really good wheels out there. Yeah. But figure out what that means, because the language I use is shaped around what we want. But the concept, again, that's why I always go back to a system. The system might hold true for you. You might just need to figure out in your system, what are those different things? Because if you're more interested in, man, I just want to feel better because I got nothing left from my family at the end of the day, versus I want to look better because I don't like what I'm portraying to my family. Those are two different things, but they both have the same end result of you're trying to make a better impact on your family, your kids, your wife, whatever. Right. But so I think the system matters, but the driving force within that could be different. Also, you said what men should be. I also think it's like, well, if you want to be that, it's what men should do. So I think like I'm an action guy. That's just how I'm naturally wired. I'm also a truth seeker more than a grace giver. And I'm working on that. God's working on my heart with that, because I tend to lean more towards being a truth seeker. And I don't want to offer up grace as quickly. And so my pastor said it best. You can't really show Jesus to others if you only pick one or the other, or if you're really heavy on one and very, very light on the other, right? But if you're a truth giver alone, then you're kind of a jerk. If you're a grace giver only, then you're kind of a pushover. There's both. And like Christ emulated both of those. So anyway, what I'm getting to there is what guys do says a lot about who they should be as well. And I don't think it's about being the extreme. I think too many people are put into that position because of what they see or exposed to. What I like to do is say, close the gap, close the margin that you have. Don't be like, I don't need to be a marathon runner, but I sure as hell should probably get out and try to be a very acceptable, at least 5K, 5 miler type. I need to get to that point. I'm not there, but I need to get to that. Like that is me. I don't have any interest in running a marathon, a triathlon. I have no interest. And I'm sure someone will probably convince me to run a 5K and I'll probably do it, but it's not, that is not what drives me, but I know it's important.
Totally.
And so I'm trying to close the gap of like, where am I a liability versus an asset? And, and I think if you are honest with yourself as a man and you just say like, man, what are some things I do well? Start with that. What are some things that I do well? Like, let's hype ourselves up every once in a while. And it's not an ego thing. It's a like, dude, I need to be able to root for myself here. And I don't need to have a million people telling me how great I am in order to actually feel good. Like that's where we got to get to. I think that comes a lot from like faith and knowing what God, like, this is what the world thinks of me. Here's what God says about me. So for anyone that's like, I really want to hammer that because I've struggled with that identity crisis before. Like, no. The world is going to continue to say like, and again, I know these funny terms are like crunchy guy or dad or whatever these terms are, dude. Crunchy. That doesn't resonate for me. Even if I was that, that doesn't resonate for me. I just like would have my stuff in alignment. But the point is this, the world might say those things or think those things about you based off of what you portray or what you do or how much money you make or what you drive, whatever. At the end of the day, I just know what God says about me. And that allows for me to drive through the lows and the highs and try to stay as level-headed as possible, not let my pride get too much and not let my doubt get too much, right? So close your gap, close the margin. Don't look at yourself as having to be a specialist. Maybe look at yourself as like a really, really solid generalist in a lot of areas. And so, and then you won't fall into that trap of like, oh, I have to be quote unquote, the David Coggins, or I have to be the Joe Rogan or the Cam Hanes or, you know, whatever some of these like 100%. buzzword guys are right now. And again, I love what they're doing.
Me too. Yeah. No. Yeah.
You know, what's been fun though? Like, so, and again, not to get too political, but like Sean Ryan, his podcast, I haven't listened to all of them. I'm not going to even act like I have, but like, he's got this different, like, composure and posture about him. He's not like intense, but he can have like a really great conversation. You're still like, wow. And you're engaged by it. Right. Well, then you can have the other side of like
military podcast, right?
Well, everything podcast now, but yes, he's military background, brings a lot on, but he is trying to bring a new level of information that is no longer mainstream. Kind of like what you guys are doing with Homegrown. Like I'm trying to bring unadulterated, like information to you that you can use if you are trying to create this wholesome family community, a sustainability and providing like the whole foods to the homeschooling to the faith driven to like all 100%. Of that. And I think he's just trying to bring a non-agenda driven media source that is trustworthy and reliable. So yeah, I mean, again, like to each their own, it's probably going to feel like it leans more right. And that's fine. That's what he wants. And that's okay. But then like, so you have him, his posture, then you have someone like Joe Rogan, very animated, tons of crazy conversations and out there. Whoa. And it's fun. It's his own thing. And then you have like the Hubermans of the world that, you know, again, so much science can be super high level, but also like there's some really interesting things to learn from. Totally. And again, I'm using buzz podcasts and buzz people right now that are super in and trendy. That's okay. That's part of society. I'm good with that. But I'm not trying to emulate any one of them. I'm just trying to extract what I think helps close my
100%.
margin.
Micro plagiarizing, right? take a little thing from here, take a little thing from here, take a
I
little
have no
thing from
problem
here,
with that.
and just copy paste it and then tweak the wording to make it right for me. And
Yep.
that's kind of what I'm working
Specialist, generalist. I think if people don't know that, take some time. Like that might be a great 2025. Hey, I'm a specialist here, because you can also evaluate yourself. Like you might be a specialist in coffee, right? Like you're a specialist in coffee, but you also have a generalist characteristic to you, because I like my drip, I like my pour over, I like my espresso, I like my whatever. Like you could have that, but at the end of the day, you're a specialist when it comes to that. More is like, hey, maybe I'm a generalist when it comes to, my handyman skills. Like totally. I can do a little bit of everything. I'm not really good at one thing, but I can kind of do a little everything. I can, caulk something here, or I can, fix a floorboard, or, I can, refit something. I don't know. But I think if a guy really stood back, and I think that's a great tool to use, and it's not hard. Just like, okay, what do I typically like find myself specializing in more, leaning towards doing? I'm confident here. What are some things that I dabble in, but like, there's probably someone out there that's better than me at that. And like, okay, like, can I be a really great generalist in a lot of areas and then specialize in some, and then know like where I need to fill the gaps with people that are better than me in those things?
I dig that. You mentioned coaching high performers.
Yes.
Define high performer.
Yeah. So a high performer is someone that understands that the needs and the tasks that they're responsible for, they may not be easy, but you got to do them. You got to do them, and you do them really well. You do them with a level of excellence. You are driven to do them. You know your calling in that. The high performers are the ones that manage things really well, but also realize that sometimes hiring someone, i.e. like me, can unlock more potential for them elsewhere. Again, what I talk about, the things that matter most. And they realize that they have those areas of shortcoming, or just that someone can do it better. So a high performer, you're going to see that person excelling in just about everything that they do, and the areas that they're not, that they might be that liability in per se, they're learning how to become an asset in, or they're finding ways to become that.
Dude,
does that answer your question?
So good. And I'm gonna rephrase it, because I like to do that, because it helps me understand things even better. So for me, I really started to grow as a person when I was prideful enough to know that I wanted to increase my ability, because I have a competitive spirit, but humble enough to know that I can't do it all by myself.
Nope.
And I need to have somebody help me. And I love saying that, because pride
gets in the way of a lot, Joe. Dude,
it'll make or break you is what I'll say. So if you have zero pride and you just don't care, you'll never be a high performer. If you are just hurtling through space in life, and you're not going to look at the mirror and be proud of what you're accomplishing or what you're working on, you gotta be proud of what you're working on and what you're doing, what you're accomplishing. But you've got to be controlled and self-controlled enough and humble enough to be able to let people speak into the things that you're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, pride is primarily, even biblically, a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that it's not inherently within us is insane. People have pride.
Knowing where the line crosses, right? So how do you know where the line crosses from confidence to pride?
Okay, there you go. Confidence may be a better word.
No, but that's what I'm asking you. So like, because I look at you and I'm like, that guy has a level of confidence that I want to follow.
Yeah.
That's a follow-worthy characteristic, man. Right? I think too many guys say, well, I don't have a position of influence or power or authority.
Yeah. Therefore,
I'm not a leader. BS. I call BS. You have a chance to lead any which way. You can lead up, you can lead down, you can lead side to side. Totally. I don't care. But there has to be a level, like an innate confidence that you do have. And the word I also like to use is certainty. And what I mean by certainty is that I may not have it all figured out, but I promise you this, if I'm given the right resources, I will.
I'd say it crosses the line when your intentions or the actions that you're doing, kind of like that are motivated, are self-centered and not.
So now we're defining it. So level of confidence,
yeah,
to ego, and pride is what we're going to say.
I think it's
okay. I like this.
If I'm working on something or working towards something or making decisions, if they are for my benefit
versus others or the mission.
Correct.
Okay.
It's prioritization. Now, sometimes the mission is to help me get better. Okay. So,
if you don't have that, you're in trouble, buddy.
Yeah.
You got to have that. No one's discounting that whatsoever.
I think that it's possible that there's been so much, and rightfully so, in most cases, so much attack on the pride of a man, specifically a man, that a man now doesn't know how to be confident or be proud of himself.
Well, without being belittled or, questioned, or
it's like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, my motive is to be better. What do you, don't get it. What's wrong with what I'm doing? No man should have any questions about the ambition if it's driven from the right area.
Exactly.
And that's why I like that you just define that. Like, okay, is that ambition for myself to grow? But man, I'm helping others and bringing them along with me, because so many times, like, okay, how many great leaders do you see? They have that ambition. They have that confidence. They have a level of certainty. It might lead to pride, but man, dude, they bring people along. And then it's like, okay, they have arrived at another destination that was set out for. And that's like the visionary part. And a lot of people don't have that, but like, you kill that visionary part if you start belittling all these different, and specifically men, right? Because at the end of the day, we're fragile. Like, there's still a fragile side to guys. We bottle that up. And I think the guys that have more confidence, that have a level of certainty, can work past that. Usually the ones that have a stronger faith. Not that that's the only matter, but a lot of guys I've been surrounded by, I see that, man, they got a sound, dialed in foundation that allows for them to work through that. But yeah, man, ambition can be killed really quickly, and that vision goes away.
In sports, you see this. And you see
I see it in business too.
In business, you see it in health, but in sports, it's really easy to look at, right? So I'm going to throw out some examples.
Okay.
In wrestling, you get pinned. Your pride is going to be, you're going to feel that.
That's the ultimate worst.
You get pinned, bro. It's like
being pinned is the worst.
You couldn't move.
And teabagged at the same time.
Oh yeah. So somebody that is your exact weight.
You said that. You said, I had no break in your emotion there. You're just like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
No, that's not even funny, Adam. Don't bring that up. Don't even bring that up, bro.
I'm getting triggered over here. You know? So pinned, and if you don't feel pride after you were pinned, you're never going to be a great wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're like, oh, whatever, like you're never going to be a great wrestler. If you what's the football? Is it called the Oklahoma drill?
Oh man,
is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, they don't do them much anymore because of that.
Is that
mano
a
mano, bro?
Okay,
There's you are
pride.
Two guys, you're coming through. Yeah, bro, you better put it aside because someone's coming to take your head off.
Did you do this?
Oh God, yeah.
Did you ever get smoked?
More times than I'd like to.
And so would you say when you got smoked that you were just like, it doesn't matter?
No, it made me be like, I mean, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back in today because that one was bad. Or other times it's like, I got to redeem myself.
And I would say that can be
transparent,
healthy pride. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I want to be better at my sport because I just got humiliated.
Yeah.
Right. If you had zero pride, you would get quote unquote humiliated, but not feel humiliated because it's just like, it is what it is. And I think that
I never really thought about it.
It's like there's something there that is healthy. It's a healthy response. It's like when people, they demonize the term anxiety. Can it be bad? Yes. But at the end of the day, is it a natural response to something? Feeling anxious means that I've got systems in my body that are firing to help me deal with potential danger.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah.
I want to feel anxious if I walk into a restaurant and I feel like there's something wrong here. I got my family with me. Like,
yeah, what's going on?
It's like, oh, this is a good response. Like, I'm my heart rate's increased. My awareness is up.
Yeah,
like I'm ready to like get some. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I might sit so I can see everybody. Right? Yeah. There's natural responses that anxiety are good, but it can be bad. So it's like, I think there, and again, there's a biblical side of this that pride can be and is a bad thing. So I'm trying to find out like what that emotional response is. To defeat or to where it's valuable, right? It's like, hey, I just had a big fight with my wife. It's like, I hope that you feel a prideful response to make a change to make things better.
I never want to be the first on that, but I usually am. My wife is she's so bad at saying sorry. And I say this to her, like, she would not be mad that I said this. What I know is that in her heart of hearts, she like knows that we need to write it. But like, I'm that guy on principle. Like, I want to hear you say it. I want to hear you say it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, you didn't even mean that. And then, well, what do you want me to say? I meant it. But here's the deal. That healthy, we'll call it like, what does Kurt say? Moments of intense fellowship or something like that, where it's like, it's basically saying like, oh, when you got in that disagreement, that tiff. But I think challenging that, like, I think some of that friction can be healthy of like the challenge and the order. And a lot of times people get worried about like the being offended or being called out. And so they stray away from that. I'm like the guy, like, dude, jump in and give me that, lean right into it. Go ahead and dabble. Right. Because I know that out of that can come actually better fruit. Mm. And so it's funny to hear that though, because Not that it happens often, but every once in a while it's like, oh yeah, I don't see eye to eye with that. And I don't like that tone very much. And so, but man, again, just having a great relationship with my wife, I'm thankful for that. And that we can have those moments and still come out of that, a team. But yeah, man, a team, that's another thing too. Like, figure out how to build that team. And I know we talked about like our 6 or having the 3 a.m. guys, but it may not be that for everybody. It could just be like 1 or 2 dudes, and you find different ways, and that support can come really far in someone's life and making a difference. So.
I think these high performers can really manage their emotions. They have serious self-control.
There's poise. There's a lot of poise.
And that's really the key to dealing with pride, right? Is having that self-control. Honestly, that's maturity. Yeah. If we're honest, maturity is being able to deal with and handle your emotions. Yeah. And if you can handle it and control your emotions, right? If someone says something to me that's offensive, my pride flares up. How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
How do I manage how do I
clap back right away?
Right. Am I about to just punch this person in the nose?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be like, let's think about this for a second.
Pause.
And that's maturity. Yeah, and these high performers, they're capable of that because here's how I've seen it play out in my life. And again, speaks to what you're doing, which I think is amazing. One, you're challenging people to be high performers. It's like, hey, that's the screener. It's like, hey, are you a high performer? Have you reached a level of maturity where you can handle your emotions, understand what needs to be done, and do them?
Yeah.
Do you have like enough pride in your life to know that like, hey, I'm blowing it right now in my marriage or in my spiritual life or in my
it needs
my
focus,
fitness,
right?
And I need to do something.
It needs focus. It needs attention. Did you put it on the back burner or did you put it in front? Right? Like put the things in the way. Put them into the way so you can actually address them on. I'm using a lot of Kurt Kersey quotes. Shout out, Kurt. Thanks, buddy. But it's true. Like a lot of guys, it's easy to compartmentalize, put it on the back burner. I'll get to it. We'll be fine in a couple days with that blowout. It's like, no, that needs to be like dialed back in because alignment and buy-in are completely off the table right now. And that is by far number one. I got to have that.
I let my pride get in the way of a good thing that could have been. And I'm still dealing with a little bit of the not really, but like I could be further along in my life than I am today because of it. And here's what it looks like. It's in business. You want to be better at business. You should have the wherewithal to understand that, yeah, I can invest my life and time, have that obsession, and reading books is great. Listening to podcasts is great. Hire a coach. I had a coach approach me a while back, and great guy. And he was like, hey, would love to get you into a system and a group of guys. We can meet together. We can do this thing. And here's some of the benefits you may see from that. And man, I was a young leader and my pride.
Thought you had it figured out.
My pride flared up, bro.
Dude, I'm crushing it right now.
I looked at this guy and I was like, man, what? You're going to coach me? Yeah. In my brain, in my heart, like I got so tight and so prideful. I looked at this person. I thought to myself, I probably know how to run a business better than you do. Who are you to coach me? Okay, this is all BS. I didn't know a thing.
Right.
I was a turd.
But you're looking at it thinking like.
And so later in life, as I matured and became more of this high performer, I realized if I want to be successful, I need to let my guard down. I need to bring this person in to speak truth into my life, to look at me and say, hey, Joey, like, here's some things I might do differently. I absolutely have a business coach today.
Yeah.
We meet on a regular basis.
How's that going for you?
It's unbelievable. Right. And it's so powerful.
Have you unlocked more because of it?
Here's what it does. One, I have skin in the game. So I pay money for this.
Yeah.
So I have skin in the game. What happened when you bought those new running shoes?
Immediately wanted to start running because I got to go use that money I just spent on them.
Right. Yeah. So I had skin in the game.
Hit you up for a couple. Hey man, just give me a couple quick, bro, go run 5 miles. Like I'll start with 2, but yeah. You start,
you get skin in the game. Secondly, I have somebody that's not in the weeds, right? They are looking at the whole forest of my life and my business, and it gives me someone to be open with, to bounce ideas off of. This loneliness you're talking about, man, business owners, especially solopreneurs,
lonely, bro.
If you don't have somebody, and I want somebody that I can talk about my finances with and be like, wow, I've invested all this money into this. I'm growing. I'm seeing sales increase, but how do I manage profitability? And this person that's like, yeah, I've been there, dude. Here's what you can do.
Right. Here's the thing that I did, right? I tried these 2 things. I don't know if they'll work for you, but if you want, I can download that with you. We can talk about it.
And then practically, very specifically, I had a business coach look at me and say, because I'm on my second one now, right? It's a very important thing for me.
Yeah, that's good.
But looked at me and I was like, hey, I'm dealing with this challenge. He said, book a couple hours with me. Brought him out to my office. We sat down together and we looked at this challenge, very specific challenge that dealt with payroll and staffing and creating salary thresholds, all sorts of things that were so powerful.
Sounds like creating a system.
And he's like, I've already done this in businesses that I've already led and sold. Here's the framework. Okay. So there's value and skin in the game of motivation for me. Now I am being held accountable towards things like that's happening.
Yeah.
Internal accountability, like my own.
Yeah.
And then there's external. He's checking in on me because that's what I pay him to do.
And it works, doesn't it?
And he's bringing practical knowledge that's applicable today. And so I'm bringing this up because the power of a coach is something that is incredibly powerful, but also I think you're right. A high performer is someone that is so focused on the mission that how you get there and whether or not I'm celebrated for my effort doesn't matter. I don't care if the living room or Homegrown or Haselmayer goods or any of the things that we're working on are successful because of me. I'm just worried on, I'm looking at the vision. I'm like, hey, if we get there, I don't need to have the glory. I don't care at all. If I'm going to get in shape and it's because I reached out to Adam and he helped me put together a system and I got skin in the game because there's a fee there. And we talked about, like what movements to be doing and what are my goals. Like, I don't care. I'm in, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that is something that I really, really resonate with. And on the business side, I've seen it in my life a ton. And I think these high performers also, they're really good at prioritizing what needs to be done. And you said that, and having that kind of core focus of what is challenging me today, what could be improved, and where do I need to invest my time, effort, and money?
Yeah, man. I mean, we were given different skills and talents, right? And a lot of times, very rarely do you find the person that has all of it at a very high level. And that's what you do. You fill those gaps in as best as you can. When did you in the whole solopreneur kind of like you've been rolling now, at what point did you say, okay, yeah, I'm ready for the coach? Like how far along in were you? How many years?
Man, way too long. It's embarrassing.
That's okay. But I just want to, there's probably a lot of, okay.
I was probably 7 years in.
So 7 years in, and then you said, okay, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. And now how long have you had a coach?
I've been working with someone as speaking into my business in my life for probably 5 years.
And worth the investment.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what I found was, when I started this business, I'm like, I'm already doing this for people. I just never charged.
Yeah.
I just did it because like I was helping the homies out, or
no skin in the game though.
So there's no skin in the game. So it was always just a transaction. When I started creating a sting by adding in a value for my time and expertise, and people still wanted it, it's like, oh, and then you start to see the results, the value you're giving them way more than the dollar amount you're charging. It's like, man, know your worth and like give them even more than that, right? Create like just such an immense amount of value in someone's life. And I think coaches can do that really well. In fact, I think coaches, the coaches we all know of are sports coaches, added, some of them did damage. We can't say they were all great, but there's always going to be a few, like you just asked me, hey, who were some of those, right? In the podcast here. But there's always going to be those ones that just absolutely went above and beyond.
100%.
And they superseded what the expectations were, right? Under promise, over deliver kind of concept, but they gave you so much value and impacted your life. And, a lot of times people are like, oh, it changed the trajectory of my life. Well, it's like, that's the power of a coach, or maybe it's a consultant or whatever, someone that has an expertise and a gift that is also trying to build a business, provide for their family, but like wants more than the transaction. And like, that's always been my goal. Like if it just becomes about help me lose 10 pounds and give me some workouts, I'm not your guy. Go hire a personal trainer. Like I want to be your coach for you in the long haul so that you look better, feel better, and train better. Mm-hmm. And damn it, we're going to ring the bell, baby. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of it. So
some practical questions here before, as we're kind of getting to,
this has been fun, bro. So, this has been good.
Nutrition versus fitness. Quick, like what do you think is the most powerful way to start if you're on a fitness journey?
I think the most powerful thing is realizing that you need to build some habits.
There you go.
So habits go to routine. A routine goes to a lifestyle change, right? So if I build habits, that's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to break and build the habit.
Yeah.
So whatever my bad one was to my good one is 3 to 4, maybe even 5 weeks, depending. Right. And then when you're doing that for, we'll call it like about 6 months, I like to think that you got a good routine going. And then I think by the time it's a year in, if you're still doing that routine, like that's just lifestyle change. So that's where I'm coming from. Some people might disagree with that or argue it differently. I'm coming from a level of experience around like what I've seen working with different athletes or different people that tends to really work. And by the time it's like a few months in on the routine, you could argue like, no, this is a lifestyle change, but man, I'm about the long haul. The short-term stuff is not it. Right. Mm-hmm. I used to be 265 pounds. Kurt and I were sitting on the front porch. We were drinking a whiskey, smoking a cigar. And I looked at him and I'm like, it's Saturday. Come Monday. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to train 3 to 4 times a week. I'm cutting out alcohol completely for this period of time. I'm going to mostly whole foods, 200 grams of protein, come hell or high water. And I'm going to see what happens. And over the first year and some change, we both lost. By the way, all you said was in, right? In. I'm there. I'm in with you. I didn't even have to invite him. Like, that's when you know you got a guy that's a 3 a.m.er or like you're 6. Like, just, you don't even have to invite him. They're just like, I'm in. And he went the same thing. He was about the same weight. He's a couple inches taller than me, but like about the same weight. And we just went on this journey. In the first year and a half, we, dropped 20, 25, 30 pounds, kept it off, put a little bit back on, and then did another round. So we're 2.5 years in now, 265 down now to 230, stronger than I've ever been, stronger than like college playing football days, awesome. Like that's where we lived and breathed. I don't ever need to squat what I squatted back in college, but I'm still squatting well. And these aren't about numbers, because if you're just chasing numbers, like it's bigger than that at this age. But like I got I got a level of strength to me. So here's what I'll tell you. It's about understanding the habits you need first, and then the areas they're in. So I think that most people can see very, very quick results in their health by changing diet. Mm-hmm. Right. And I know Homegrown is all about this. Dude, if you cut out a majority of sugar, you decide to limit, because I know it's not completely possible, but at least limit alcohol intake. You start eating whole foods and you focus on a balanced macro, not cutting any macros out, just a balanced macro with protein always being number 1, typically carb being number 2, or a 1A, 1B combo, depending how hard you train or what you're training for. And then a healthy amount of fat, because you still need fat.
100%.
And the people that are like, oh, go keto, or oh, go caveman, or go. I'm like, look, maybe that works. Like maybe that works short term, but all the fad diets, they all run their course with everybody. The only people that are having success doing that are the ones that either need it from a health standpoint. Like I have some friends that are battling cancer, so they're keto because they're like I'm all about that. I support that. I'm all in. My client is her husband. Like my client is married. His wife is the one that's battling cancer right now, and they're fighting like hell. And I admire him so much. 100%. He is such a fighter, and he is so supportive. And so it's like, she needs to be on keto. My man's on keto loosely. We're trying to still do as balanced, but like he falls heavy on like the fat intake. And it's like, hey man, your journey might be different because of that, but we can still get you where you need to go. Yeah. So again, tying this back in, always trying to stay focused, because I can get off track.
I love
easily.
It, man. I'm in.
It's the habits around your nutrition first. Very simple concept. Somebody wants something right now. Here it is. You can't eat it if you don't bring it in the house.
It's funny how that works.
You can't eat it if you don't bring it in the house. Yeah. Be more prepared. Spend more time preparing. Don't just go through the easy drive-through. All right. There is a lunchbox in my car with 2 ice packs in it, and it has chicken and rice, right? And it has cottage cheese. And so I have those things on deck. I'm probably going to eat the cottage cheese on the way home. And as soon as I get home, I'll probably put the chicken and rice back in the microwave and heat it up real quick and just go from there. Yeah. Like that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to work for me. And guess what? If I do all that well, I'll be over 100 grams of protein before 1 o'clock. And so now I have one shake that gets me to 140, 150. Then I have dinner, which should be about 50 grams. I'm at 200 for the day.
That's awesome.
Like, but again, it takes discipline. If I didn't pack for that and I'm starving when I'm leaving here, all right, I'm going down the street and I'm going to go through a drive-through most likely. That's what most people are experiencing. I'm not saying that you have to eliminate that, but man, if you can make that this like just a fraction of what you do, you're going to see results. So again, Cliff Marshall, performance director at Indiana University for men's basketball, one of my mentors, unbelievable Christian man, unbelievable family man. He's got an incredible story of redemption. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because he said it to me, and I know he picked it up from somewhere else, but I got to give credit where it came from to me. You can't out train a bad diet. Genetics might get you so far, but at the end of the day, you're never going to out train a bad diet. So I like to think that if someone's going to start somewhere, start with, do I know how much protein I had today? Do I know how much protein I had for the week? Do I know how many carbs and fats I had in relationship to that? Then I look at my deficit. Okay. How much training am I doing in the week? Am I doing 1 day a week where I'm just walking, low intensity? Am I training hard 3 days a week? Right? Like, what does that look like? And then you just start to build this plan. And that's what I offer up as a coach in my business is the system, the structure, and the advice to say, okay, here's what we're going to go with. We're going to stick to this plan. We're going to evaluate it in 4 to 6 weeks on our coaching call. And if it's working great, good, let's keep going. If it's not, what do we need to adjust? Again, after action reviews. And we just it's a moving target, man. Do I got a lot of travel? Do I not have a lot of travel? Yeah. If I have a lot of travel, what's the thing I can win in? I can win in my diet and my nutrition way more than I can in my training if I'm on the road and it's crazy for me. However, we now have things I got in hotel workouts, dude. It's like push-ups, dips off the chair in the room, right? It's decline push-ups off the bed. It's jumping jacks. It's right. Like there's ways that we can do that. You can do a wall sit in there. There's lots of things. Are we trying to get gains in there? No, we're trying to stack wins of discipline and accountability by keeping our habits strong and that routine in place because our lifestyle is now that.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're going with that. So, can't out train a bad diet. That's my answer there. It's nutrition first because it's the low hanging fruit, but man, does it go well with resistance training?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So something that I was thinking about is, do you have any, or have you ever heard of any, or any interest in helping kind of pioneer would love a test of like are you a high performer? I was just thinking that, like, can you imagine there was a test? Similar like one of these personality.
Need to make that note right now.
One of these like personality tests. You know what I'm talking about? So you got the Enneagram, you got the
I love that. Or does that come together? Can you culminate some of the things people are already doing to say, hey man, you fall into a high performer category?
Dude, I'd be fascinated to know and really defining out this high performer.
It's a buzzword, right?
A lot of men want to be a high performer. I want to be a high performer. I aspire to be a high performer, and I'm constantly trying to pull myself away. There's everything in the world all the comforts of life are pulling me away from being a high performer. It's just every day. That's kind of what I'm up against.
Complete distractions over and over again.
100%. And so working towards constantly being a high performer. And I just think, is it natural? Is it something where you make a decision? Is there something that can like motivate me or push me towards that? Anyhow, I'd be super, super fascinated.
It's like, do you tend to do your training in the morning or in the evening?
Whenever I can.
Right. So, but I'm saying like you start to ask those questions. So it's like, okay, whenever I can.
Yeah.
Well, that quality has more than, I train in the evening 2 times a week. It's like, no, I train whenever I can, but I train 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Like this dude's willing to do what it takes. Like it's a different kind of tenacity you're going after. Like not necessarily, this guy. And again, there's no problem with structure. Structure is very helpful for a ton of people. I recommend some level of structure. Again, that's systems. But again, when you look at everyone else and then you're trying to emulate them, but that doesn't work, you end up with nothing. So yeah, I mean, that would be really cool. Just like what goes into that from a character, mindset, standpoint of like defining.
I would take the test.
Dude, 100%. That's pretty dope.
100%.
I like that, man. Great idea.
Hey, keep in the, in the back of your head, those listening that, Adam may or may not be coming out with a, Are You a High Performer book, test, something. So I'll be excited. Just going to sign you up for that because I'd love to.
All right, here we go. Guess I'm writing a book now. I just became a self-proclaimed author. Yeah,
hilarious. Adam, I'm gonna tie us up there. I want you to let people know where they can find you, get connected with you, find you on social media. work with you, where can people find you?
Yep. So here's where I'm at. I operate very simply. I'm kind of the gray man. I'm not trying to be the flashy out there, but what you're going to get is consistency, man. You're going to get someone to show up. So Coach Atallah, Atallah, probably be right underneath here somewhere. It'll be, but Coach Atallah on Instagram, coachatallah.com. We locked up everything, made sure we had all that dialed in. I'm on LinkedIn. I actually spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, man.
Okay.
There's a ton of high performers sitting there on LinkedIn and they're crushing it. And then I just get to have a simple question like, hey, here's what I do. I started business. I focus on men's total health. I just help guys like you show up at your best for the things that matter most. What kind of things are you into? What matters most to you? Insert your answer. And then that's where the conversation starts. And I've really had to hone that in because, dude, no lie, I was spending way too much time talking. And I knew it, but I felt like I had to spend so much time explaining it because it's kind of different. It's kind of out there. At the end of the day, we're running remote and virtual coaching for men. You can be right here in Cincinnati. You can be across the country. I got clients in Dallas, Chicago, New York City. I have clients everywhere. But you don't need to have a coach just in person in order to receive the benefits of it. And in fact, I'd argue high performers have such chaotic schedules and lives that trying to have all in person doesn't work. So man, I'm flipping the model upside down. I'm saying, hey, everything we do is virtual. You want to sign up with me? I'm a remote virtual coach. However, if you live in Cincinnati, hey, we have a training session you can come to 2 times a week at a private gym downtown. And you can check it out. Hey, I could come and meet you. Let's go get a session. And hey, let's go for a run. You asked me, right? I'm getting over some sickness, but like, hey, bring your running shoes, man. Let's go for a little run or, and so the power of an invite there makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm working with guys remote around the country, helping them show up at their best, man. So they can be there for the things that matter most.
You doing like video calls? What does that look like exactly?
Yes. So you can schedule a coaching connection call with me on my calendar. You can actually find it on LinkedIn. You can find it on my profile on Instagram. And yeah, we can set up a 30-minute call. Would love to talk to you, get to know a little bit about what you're doing, maybe hear like what some of your goals are. We do like a light dreams eval. The dreams eval comes once you really sign up and you're like bought in the program. Dreams stands for desires. Like, so just what are the realities, or I'm sorry, what are the aspirations you have in your life? R is for realities. What are the realities of your life? The things you're committed to, your schedule, all of that stuff. E is for encouragement. How do you receive encouragement? What encouragement do you need? A is for accountable action. What are the things that you need coaching on? Like you need to be held accountable for and will receive well. M is for management, because we all suck at managing something, 100%. Right? We all suck at managing something. And so what do you really need help managing, or that we need to be like focused on to make sure you're doing well to be successful? And then S is for start and stop. I believe every man has things that they either need to start or stop, or in this case, maybe limit. And that's dreams. And I'll tell you what, I was in the middle of a workout. I have a huge whiteboard in my old weight room, and I was in the middle of a workout and the Lord just hit me with it. Like, boom, dreams. I'm like, okay. And I wrote it down. I'm like, this is an acronym. I wrote down like dreams down, and I just started, it flew. I had no stop. It just kept flowing. I'm like, that was unbelievable. And then I looked at it, I'm like, this is pretty good. And I'm like, all right. And I formulated 15 to 20 questions around it, dropped it in a survey. And that is literally how I do every onboarding call now with all my clients. So anyway, there's everyone's quick. Feel free to take it if you want. It might work for you. You don't have all the questions, but like the concept is there. You can look at that any way you want. But yeah, so a connection call is a great way to get a hold of me. DM me. I'm always open to conversation. And if I can add value, I mean, listen, you might not be ready to hire a coach yet. If you are, like, let's talk. But if I can add value just with something basic, my goal in 2025 is to start a newsletter that just provides little tidbits to people, little breadcrumbs that allow for you to like have a little bit more knowledge in 2 or 3 areas. Maybe there's an article attached that I found interesting, like that maybe you would like, and then a workout for the week. I love it. Like just a single workout. It's like, hey, why do you say then don't work out, stop working out, start training? Well, it's like sometimes people need something to throw around that's outside their training, right? Cross training, a deload, just give you a new change of scenery. So yeah, I mean, there's still workouts, but if all you're doing is aimlessly working out, that's where I come in and say, no, like, let's start training. But yeah, so I think that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Does that answer that question?
So good. Okay. Hey, if you're a high performing man,
yes,
and you're looking to get after and perform highly, right? Yes. Hit up Adam Atallah on Instagram. We'll have his stuff in the show notes here. Definitely. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks,
man. So fun. Yeah. And I know I probably talked your ear off.
No, I love this. I'm all about this. I hope that this was helpful. My prayer is always like, Lord, let this reach one person and help them. And my grandfather, I'm going to sign off this way. My grandfather, whenever he would, someone would be leaving or, we'd have a cheers, he'd always say, here's to your health. And so for all of you out there, the homegrown community and anyone else that hears it, man, here's to your health and an awesome opportunity to level up. Right. So cheers, man.
Love
Thanks
it,
for
man.
what you're doing.
Till next time.